I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine.
That's exactly what we're talking about here today. This, what Glenda was mentioning about her brother and her relationship with that. You know, we sort of think that this little light of mine is a song for children. Oh no, it's a song for every one of us. It is the holy call to every one of us. It is that invitation to live that energy, to be the shining example. There is no mistake that the sacred paintings show realized beings and all of the holy ones with what? Big, shiny halos. Halos. The shiny aspect of who we really are. And so that's what we're talking about this entire month. This idea of living that in the world, like Glenda said. To be that. To be that in the world. And I'll tell you what, this is an easy talk for this crowd. I got news for you. If I gave this talk to a different crowd, it would be a different story. We would probably be run out of town, not invited back, called cult members, you know, damned to hell or whatever those terminologies would be, because the things that we teach in this community are blasphemous in some other communities. And so this is not such a stretch for us, but I tell you what, a lot of us have come through some of those experiences or are surrounded by those experiences through our relationships with other folks. And it takes a lot of energy to remember the truth. So I'm reading this morning as I began from one of my very favorite books. We're using this book all month, Lama Surya Das, The Big Questions. How to Find Your Own Answers to Life's Essential Questions. John, you'll appreciate this story. The story goes that one day an elementary school teacher had her first grade class draw with pencils and crayons. She was walking around the classroom looking over her students' work, encouraging, helping, enjoying, and appreciating the entire show. When she came to little Camilla, who was furiously working on her picture. "What are you drawing, Camilla?" "I'm drawing a picture of God." "Yeah, but Camilla, no one knows what God looks like." "They will in a minute." She got back to work. Camilla shows us the can-do, will-do, am-doing spirit of the heroic wisdom warrior. That's what we are, wisdom warriors. Take that on. That's what it is to be an avatar, to be a wisdom warrior. To know, I think this also comes from that same text. There is no one way to truth. Only your way. Only your way. And if someone tells you there's only one way, you can be certain that they don't know the truth. And so the capacity for us to be courageous enough to be outside of the box and spiritually independent, that's what we are, folks. We're spiritually independent. To bring that attitude into our everyday walk in the world requires us to own our divinity so that we've got the courage and the strength to stand in our own light, no matter what's going on around us. Yes. And you know what it is? Spiritual maturity. It's spiritual maturity. Owning our divinity and remembering the truth of our being and being able to express that in the world within our human activity is a big spiritual practice. And it requires spiritual maturity. To remember that we are born in original blessing. We're not born in original sin. How many people in this room had an early start in life with that understanding? Many of you, yes. And you know what? We're surrounded by people today who think the same darn thing. We know the truth. That there is within each and every one of us this spark of divinity. Oh, and by the way, no one of us gets more than the other. We talked about this on Friday at our Eckhart Tolle group. We've all got the same amount of divinity. There's nobody that's got more capacity to be enlightened than you do, than I do. We're all equal in our divinity. And you know why? Because we are all a spark of that energy that God is. We're equal in our divinity. There are no higher realized beings than any other. Do you realize that? Now, there are people who walk in the world with more skill, who show up with a refined spiritual maturity, and we might call those beings enlightened, but guess what? They are no more enlightened than any one of us when we are coming from that same heart space of care and compassion and remembering the truth of our own divinity. And like Glenda said, it's a direct experience. You got to know it. It doesn't help to carry that holy book under your arm and thump on it and be able to read all the passages if you don't know how to walk it in the world and express your divinity within your everyday walk. Walk the talk. To be the living energy, you see, to be an avatar, you have to be willing to accept the invitation to live the energy of the great example of the realized beings. Those realized beings like Jesus and Buddha and the sages and the saints and all the wisdom keepers on the planet. You've got to accept the invitation to actually live that. Those are great examples. And guess what? They got the same amount of divinity that you and I have. They just knew how to express it a lot of the time. A lot of the time. Those of you who come from a Christian tradition, Jesus, the great example, said, "These things that I do, you shall do also, and greater things than these shall you do." We can all step into the world with this energy of care, compassion, love, forgiveness, all of these qualities that we attribute to these realized enlightened beings. We're that when we remember. What does it look like to be a realized being? We're compassionate. We're kind. We walk softly on the earth. We're humble. We forgive people. We're balanced. We're not pulled into the polarities of life. And when we remember that and have the willingness to embody that, we become the avatars. We become the realized beings. See, it's about being it. It's not about knowing about it. There are a lot of people who know a lot about spiritual things, religious things, holy books, by memory, cite everything. That's a lot different than being able to live it and be it in the world. A lot different. And this is the deal, like Glenda said, with her brother and with her grandchildren and with every other being she comes in contact with. When we are able to live our life from this place of spiritual maturity with care and kindness and compassion and love, guess what? Everything and everybody that comes in contact with us is enriched by the energy that we bring to our experiences. That's how we become an avatar. That's how we demonstrate. See? Everything and everybody becomes a holy encounter, as they would say in the Course in Miracles. Everything and everybody has that sacred quality when we know who we are and remember. See, it's all about remembering. Because a lot of the time, we're forgetting the truth of our being. We're not remembering who we really are. Especially when things get tough. When things are hurting, or the world gets very chaotic, we forget, see. So it's a practice. We got to walk the talk. We got to constantly pull ourselves back, align our awareness with the truth that we know by direct experience, and then meet the world with that awareness. Meet the world with our heart and with our divinity, with our love, with our care, with our compassion. And you know what? This is a big thing. We don't have to worry about doing some humongous, life-changing, world-shaking thing. We don't have to worry about that. Now, some people are called to do those things in the world. They're called to do big things. But every encounter, every single relationship, every single interaction between you and anyone or anything else matters. And so our work is to simply do what we can with whatever that thing is. Be the presence of the divine with that thing. We don't have to worry about, making the news. We don't have to worry about being, the biggest hero on the planet. We just focus on meeting whatever is going on in the moment with our most divine self. In the moment. See what each moment is calling us to be and do that, whatever that thing is, you see. I love what the Dalai Lama says. He says, every human endeavor is potentially great and noble. You know why? Because you never know, you don't have to worry about the outcome. As long as you're coming from heart space, as long as you're coming from your energy of love and care and compassion, you don't have to worry about the outcome. The potential for it to be great and noble is already embedded within the energy of the care and compassion and love. Like with Glenda's brother. Who would have thought that this one would turn around and begin sending packages in the mail? Never happened before, did it? Yeah, see? It awakened gratitude and blessing within this one. So when we come from our heart, when we come from this place of love and care and compassion, all of our actions are relevant. All of them matter, you see. And this is the deal, and this is a big deal. We've got to be able and willing to step away from our sense of separation from other people, from other things, from other experiences. You see, as soon as we see ourselves as different or other than the other, and see a separation there, then we're already stepping away from the truth of our divinity and our oneness with all that is, you see. So it's a high calling because it requires us to step away from complete focus on ourselves, so that we can focus on the greater, like the opening reading from Mark Gaffney and Ken Wilber. Focus beyond family, beyond religion, beyond our tribe, beyond our nation. Focus on the greater whole, away from just self-interest. That's a biggie. That's a real biggie. Focus on orient their heart and mind away from just all about me to all about all of us. All about all of us. And guess what? It's never too late to begin. It's never too late to remember the truth of who you are. It doesn't really matter what's happened before this exact moment in time. Maybe you think that some things in your life have been unforgivable. No, that's not true. Nothing can change, can alter, can diminish, can soil, can taint your original divinity, period. That's a truth. That is an absolute truth. And so, you just need to remember in this moment. Now, do you need to maybe sometimes make some amends along the way? Of course, we all do. We all misstep. We all are unskillful at times. We simply clean up the mess, clean up the wreckage, as they would say in 12-step, and move on. We start over again. It is never too late to bring our divine selves to the exact moment and do whatever is called for in that moment. And you know what? We know what hurts. We know what helps. There's this natural ethic that we all possess, this natural compassion. We're born to be good. Sometimes we make mistakes, and when we do, we say, oops, I'm sorry, and have a do-over. But we are born to know what hurts and to know what is helpful and what is loving and what is kind. And to ask ourselves that question whenever we encounter anything. What is, this comes from Lama Surya Das, what is the best thing I can do now in this situation, given these circumstances? What is required of me right now, on the spot, in this moment? How do I bring my divinity to this, whatever this thing is? If the faucet's dripping, I turn it off. Well, it's a good metaphor. If the faucet's dripping, turn it off. If somebody's in pain, bring comfort. If someone needs something, do what is yours to do. Now remember, we get to choose, because it's not everything's ours to do. We got to decide, is it mine to do? Is it yours to do? Or is it God's to do? But if we stand back and we are looking at it with an open heart and care and compassion and go, yeah, I'm called to do or be present with this situation in this way, then that's what we do. And we know it's not easy. We know it's complicated. We know that it includes complexity. We know that there are great paradoxes in all of our experiences over this human condition. And you know what? Sometimes we know it's just downright funny. It's just humorous. The way God, what they say, if you want to make plans, or if you want to make God laugh, make plans, or whatever that saying is. So here it is. Take the invitation to remember the truth of your being. Take the invitation to let your light shine very brightly. To walk around aware that you have a halo. Aware that you impact every other being that you come in contact with all the time. Not sometimes, all the time. Take the invitation of the Buddha from the Oxford pictures, who comes back into the marketplace after he remembers the truth of who he is, remembers the truth that is only his truth, and brings it back into the marketplace. But when he comes back, he's barefoot, he has empty hands, and he's unadorned, and he's ready to serve. Remember, take that energy with you. You don't need anything but who you are to express your divinity. Remember, this is a big invitation. Remember that the words that you speak reveal the quality of your heart. So be mindful of what you say to people. Be mindful of the thoughts that you're thinking. Be respectful, not rude. Be compassionate, not hurtful. Take the invitation to own your divinity, to remember who you are, to live your spiritual maturity, and to express that in the world. Align your unique self, this radiant, unique individual that you are, align that and the beautiful gifts that you bring into the world with your awareness of your divinity. Be like Camilla, who drew this picture. Take on that can do, will do, am doing spirit of the heroic avatar, that one who remembers and knows the truth of your being. Someone tells you that you don't know what God looks like. Just simply tell them, you will in a minute. Why? Because you are that energy manifest in the world. Thank you for listening.